all of that. We've got the usual suspects back in place, minus McMorey. He's not back until tomorrow, I guess. I guess he gets an extended day, but Bell K's behind the glass. We call him Headless Bell on this radio show because he chooses not to participate on the television side of things. More on that in a moment.
Correct.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too, also.
I feel like I know you worked last week.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked last week, but I feel like we didn't work. Well, we didn't work together last week because, you were with Joan and I was with Mason and Chris Weber over on the drive.
Yep.
How was your New Year's? Good?
It was very low-key. Now that Jimmy Buffett has passed, there's only one real amateur drinking night of the year, and that's New Year's, so I tend to stay home.
Mm-hmm. I got out of Dodge. I did good. I was down there. I was in the midst of it, and then I got out of it
on Broadway?
Yeah.
Oh, you're insane.
Yeah, but it was all good till, at 6 o'clock. I was out of it before 6 o'clock. So what time did I get out of
the show, did you?
No. I watched that at home. So I'll tell you the full bit, but some friends came into Nashville for the Music City Bowl. Auburn fans, and Eric is an Auburn fan, and so we all went to the game and sat together and had a great time and spent a good time later on, just, fellowshipping and whatnot. And then the next day we had a brunch scheduled with some other friends, and we did the brunch thing, and unbeknownst to me, the brunch was happening at the food hall across the street from the Ryman. And so since we were down there anyway, they had a hotel room down here. We just kind of hung out, went to Robert's and listened to some good old country music and hit a couple of other spots. And by, 4 o'clock or so.
Went to the Valentine to watch your phone?
Oh, yeah. Right. Sure.
Sorry. That's a little inside baseball.
That is inside baseball, but I don't know. I don't know if they had any trouble or not. They better not have had trouble during that game. That was, man, oh, man. For those that don't know, the Valentine's where the Georgia Bulldog faithful go to watch the game when it's actually on the television. When it's not on the television, I'm there for you with YouTube TV.
On his phone.
To help out. 100 Georgia Bulldog fans gathered around my phone with me screaming out the score. Embarrassing. Anyway, had a good time. What did you do for, I assume you did nothing for New Year's.
Yeah, I mean, I literally will not go out on New Year's because there's just too many amateur drunk drivers out there who think they can pull it off once a year, and it's just scary.
It is. No, it is, and yeah, I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth it even nowadays. I'm not that guy. I would love to be able to tell you that I've never been that guy, but I have been that guy in my life, and I'm ashamed to say it, but in my 20s and my 30s, you do stupid things. I'm not that guy anymore, but there's a lot of me out there. From
a lot of what you used to be still on the roads.
Right, still on the roadways. So you shy away from that. We were out on the 30th. We were downtown on the 30th. I actually bar hopped for the first time in Nashville. I was out with some friends from New York who were visiting their folks in Alabama, and they came up for the game. And then after the game, E went home to be with the dogs. And so we went from Acme Feed and Seed to Nudies. I feel like I got a good representation in for them because they wanted to see what's up.
Tootsies?
We didn't do Tootsies. We did Roberts. My go-to when I pick the honky tonk, I pick Roberts Western World instead of Tootsies because Tootsies is so damn narrow and it's so difficult to navigate when there are crowds.
Oh, yeah. If it's packed, it's packed.
It's packed, and it's hard to walk. Roberts never feels that way to me. And there's always a space in the back of Roberts in the upper deck that people don't know about. Anyway, so we did Roberts, we did Nudies, we did Acme, we did Friends in Low Places, the brand new Garth Brooks bar, downtown Broadway, Nashville, Tennessee.
Is that where we were when we were at the Valentine watching the game? Was that the building that
was under construction?
Okay. Damn, they got that together quick.
Yeah. Well, see, actually, what I claimed was part of that isn't part of that.
Oh, okay.
That's something, I don't know what they're doing there, but that's something different. But yeah, Friends is Garth, for a guy that sometimes seems as humble as can be and has not been impacted or affected by his massive fame, you walk into the joint and there's this big statue of Garth Brooks going like, look at me.
Is there memorabilia everywhere?
Oh, yeah, there's a huge
Well, that's kind of what you want when you're going into a place, especially if you're a tourist.
I mean, I mean, if you're going into Fringe, you're probably a Garth Brooks fan, and
yeah,
I guess that's what you want out of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you watch any of the activities happening on New Year's Eve?
I did not.
So you didn't watch anything from Nashville?
I watched some Andy Griffith reruns.
I watched a little of that on New Year's.
A little bit of YouTube, good. And I started to watch the spinoff show Gen V, the spinoff of The Boys, and I fell asleep.
By the way, I've just got breaking news, and I want to get back to this, which is far more important to me than what I'm about to tell you, but this is pretty important as well. It's breaking news coming down in just the last couple of minutes. The president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, has resigned. According to sources, multiple sources have indicated that.
Well, have we checked the resignation letter for authenticity?
It's true. You know what? If I were in her spot, I've made a lot of poor life choices. If I'm in her spot, in as much as I've stolen a lot of material from other human beings, but I would find someone else's famous resignation letter and just use that as my resignation letter, just to kind of give the old one finger salute. I mean, why not at this point? Your reputation's ruined, rightly so. You have gone down in flames. I would like to say that you were responsible for bringing Harvard to this lowly state, but it's not true. You've only been the president of Harvard for 7 months.
You just spent 7 months keeping it down.
Right. You just kept it where it was, but yeah. So the Harvard University president, I would give you more details on the story, but the story that I just clicked on, I saw the initial headline on Drudge. I clicked the story from Drudge, and it's a paywall, and I'm not paying anything to the Boston Globe to read their stupid story. Harvard University president Claudine Gay will be stepping down after months of contending with interlocking crises. One, her commentary over the Israel. I said this from the day after she sat before an assembled committee in Congress and said that it was all about, context as to whether or not you can declare genocide against a group of people is an okay thing, which is what From the River to the Sea means. Oh, that's all about the context of the commentary that is made. I mean, that's a ridiculous statement in and of itself and is resign worthy. But it was never going to be that. It was always going to be the plagiarism that was discovered after the fact. It's the Nixon doctrine, friends. It's not what you do in politics or in life, largely, that gets you in most trouble, unless what you do initially is as egregious. I mean, it's oftentimes what you do to try to cover up what you did or what is discovered after you do what you did that gets you into most trouble, and that's what's happening here.
I don't remember the organization, but there was a story out over the weekend where somebody internal to Harvard, an organization inside of Harvard, had begun demanding her resignation.
Well, yeah. I mean, this was not a one-off. They decided, I mean, I don't know anything about Claudine Gay from Adam's House Cat 7 months ago. I could not have told you on a bet who the president of Harvard was 3 months ago. Could not have done it. I mean, if you bet me $1 million, I would have lost that bet. But now that we've discovered what she is, she's got to go. She not only stole a couple of things. These were not mistakes in terms of how she wrote her scholarly papers.
It was theft.
It was theft. She regularly lifted other people's work and put it as her own and did not cite the other people's work against the basic. Put it this way. If she were a student at Harvard, she would have been gone long ago.
Oh, yeah.
But thankfully, according to the Harvard Crimson and the Boston Globe and several other publications close to the matter, Claudine Gay will be out. That's great news. But don't expect any sea change as to how Harvard conducts its business. Harvard is a liberal university, and they are dug in regarding wokeness and all of the other things that has sadly brought them to where they are today. Harvard's provost, Dr. Alan Garber will be the interim president. According to sources, she's stepping down after contending that she was not guilty of what she was so obviously guilty of. We had a great conversation with Dr. Carol Swain about this matter just days after it broke, when it was discovered that Dr. Swain, who is a Nashville resident, and Nashville, I don't think she's a Nashville native, but she's certainly a Nashville resident. Dr. Swain was one of the individuals who had information and had her material stolen from her, which is what plagiarism is, and used as this president's own. So there's that story going on, just breaking moments ago. Wanted to relate it to you at 12:15 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up a little bit later on the show, Congressman Tip. By the way,
there's some additional info.
What do you got?
Biden has weighed in on this and has said, "What's the big deal?"
No. What Joe said was to Dr. Claudette Gay. Was it Claudette or Claudine? I always get it wrong. Is it Claudette or Claudine? I thought it was Claudette. No, it's Claudine. To Dr. Claudine Gay, I say this. Well, I understand you stole other people's work, and that's not good. But just wait 30 years. You too can be president of the United States.
Perfect.
I mean, right?
Yes.
I mean, now that I think about it.
He's an admitted plagiarist.
I mean, it got his ass booted out of the 1988 election cycle. I mean, they were like, Joe, you're lifting your speeches from other people. Here's a guy from England. Here's a guy from, Boston or wherever it was. And Joe Biden, because the media actually had a soul then, now they were still left of center, but they had a certain level of purpose. They still abided by a basic mission statement to tell the truth. And so they told the truth. Joe Biden's a plagiarist. They put it up on the nightly news, and Joe Biden's political campaign was over. Now, he managed to hold on to his Senate seat. He managed to hang in there in the state of Delaware, because he's bringing the goodies back home. But then you just wait, and you wait until, Barack Obama decides he needs an old white guy to be his vice president, and there you go. Redemption galore for Joe Biden. So don't worry, Claudine. 30 years from now, you too can be reformed and redeemed, and all will be forgiven. It is 12:17. We'll get into more matters of import coming up in just a couple of minutes. We'll continue talking about what happened on New Year's. I want to reflect just a little bit on the New Year's programming and something that I said on social media that apparently got a lot of liberals' panties in a bunch. We'll do that in a moment. We'll take your telephone calls. Always open for telephone calls in the new year, especially 615-737-9986. We'd also love to see your texts up on the super text line. Same number, 615-737-9986. Congressman Tim Burchett, who I think has potentially got the time wrong because he just tried to call me. So I'm going to give you his number so you can call him back. We've got him at 1:05 today, I hope, cross fingers. I think we've got him at 1:05. He called me at 12:05. Which normally means that he is already on the Eastern time zone and thinks that it's time for our interview, which it's not. That happens at 1:05. We'll talk to him about Sam Bankman-Fried and the efforts on the part of the leftist on payroll at the DOJ to cover all of that up. That's at 1:05 today. In the meantime, we're up and running on a variety of platforms, and I'm so appreciative of those of you that can find us on these other platforms outside of the radio station. Obviously, that's our central platform at 99.7 FM. We're also streaming anywhere you get your streaming. You can find us. Just type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN and stream us wherever you go on a platform of your choosing. You can always download the app. And then there's Supertalk TV up and running. Supertalk TV is on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. It is a different world. I don't know why you'd want to watch me do this, but thank you for doing so on a daily basis. Hello, you see my face for radio on Supertalk TV. It's one of the reasons. See, one of the reasons that Bell doesn't do Supertalk TV, we call him Headless Bell as a result. He doesn't want to show me up because he's such a good-looking man. But he does. He does title the episodes on a daily basis. Today is episode 482, and it is entitled
Matt Murphy Show. We're talking important stories, like when our next day off is.
I already know.
I do too.
Are you taking MLK?
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes,
I'm not taking MLK.
Better.
I'm not taking MLK. It's 12:19 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, they want to help you in 2024. Let's talk about it. So, you had a busy Christmas season. You had a busy New Year, probably a little down in the back. If you've already had back pain in your life, if you've already experienced some of the neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, or elbow pain that we talk about frequently when we talk about the Dr. Gill Center, then I would expect that the holidays just exacerbated that. It made it even worse. Well, the Dr. Gill Center wants to make your 2024 better. They want to do so by getting you to dial them up, and all it takes from you is a telephone call, and they'll take it from there. They'll get a little bit of information. They'll schedule an appointment. You come in, and they'll give you a comprehensive examination. You get a special deal, say pain relief, say Matt Murphy, and they'll give you that special deal when you stop in 2024. And then they get to work alleviating your pain without needing pills, without considering needles, and without the consideration for surgery. And that's what it's all about, getting back to a regular life, a pain-free life, without needing to pop pills regularly or to consider surgical alternatives. Surgery should always be the last option. Dr. Gill should be the first. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, they've been treating people just like you for over 3 decades, doing it the right way. 615-882-4838. 882-4838. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Dr. Gill Center. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 12:23, almost 12:24. Matt Murphy getting 2024 cranked up. Feels like Monday. It's a Tuesday, January 2. Hope your football team won over the weekend, if they were playing, whether they be in the pros or in the collegiate ranks. There was a great game that happened, if you're a Maryland Terrapins fan, in the Music City. I was a part of that at Nissan Stadium. And then there was some of the championship games happening yesterday. That was a lot of fun. You can join in the conversation, 615-737-9986. We'd love to hear from you, 615-737-9986. Did we work that out, Bill K?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are we still going to go?
Mason.
Are we still going to go 105? Yeah, I understand.
No, we're going to do 12:35.
We're going to do 12:35. Okay.
Yeah, so he's going to call us back.
12:35. Congressman Tim Burchett will be with us on the show. We had a little bit of time. Well, he's on Eastern time. He's back in Washington D.C. and If you don't clarify, sometimes that's a little bit confusing. But we'll get him on at 12:35 this afternoon to discuss his frustration with the Sam Bankman-Fried decision-making on the part of the Department of Justice with regard to what they will and will not prosecute when it comes to Sam Bankman-Fried. He's got a couple of strong ideas as to why that's going on the way that it is. The breaking news happening just moments ago, the president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, a person that I could not have picked out of a lineup as recently as a month ago, has decided to resign her position as president of that once credible, notable, and esteemed university. It has now fallen on a bit of hard times, as they say. So that story is ongoing as well. The Big Bash, I don't have a lot to say about this, but I made a comment on social media, and a lot of liberals flipped their lid over it. I don't make a lot of what Green Day has to say about anything. I mean, I like Green Day as a band, as far as that goes, but I know what I'm getting if I'm watching Green Day. It's a bunch of liberals. If you've not heard, apparently, and they've been doing this for a while now, the original lyric was Redneck Agenda, which they've changed to MAGA Agenda, and I'm certain that the Green Day, the band, looks at those two phrases as interchangeable for all intents and purposes. So Green Day goes out on stage and changes the lyrics to their song. They also bleep them when they use the F-bomb, and it wasn't the F-bomb that you're thinking of when you normally think of F-bombs. It was the F-bomb that's used to disparage homosexual males, which is a lyric in the song that they've not changed. But my point is this: CBS was counter-programming that garbage, right? You know what you're going to get in New York City on Dick Clark's New Year's Rocket Eve. You know what you're going to get when you turn over to CNN, for example, and watch that nonsense with Anderson Cooper and whatever the other guy's name is, Andy Cohen. Don't you kind of know what you're going to get? So if I get into the ocean and I know that there's a shark there, when I get bit, should I be surprised that there's a shark there? I believe that consumers should use their feet, their eyeballs, or their remotes and go other places to consume. And I think that's what CBS was trying to do with Nashville's Big Bash. They were attempting to present an alternative to what you probably are going to get out of New York, what you're definitely going to get out of #NeverCNN. And instead of using this platform, and I'm not faulting anybody that has it as a talking point, that's not my point, but instead of using this platform to elevate Green Day into a status that they don't deserve, how about talking about the wonderful thing that went on in Nashville that I was watching on CBS, and I hope you were too. It wasn't, I understand Leonard Skinner isn't really Leonard Skinner. And I understand that some of the moments between Rob Schneider and his daughter were a little awkward. I did find Rob Schneider in a nudie suit to be pretty funny. That said, that's what that programming was for. There's a recognition on the part of CBS that what they're doing in New York City is not for everybody. What they're doing on CNN and some of these other platforms that have decided to hold New Year's Eve programming, those are not for everyone. And I thought that there was an intentional effort to bring in the rest of us live from Nashville, Tennessee. And, it was, and I get some of the criticisms, but I thought all in all it was pretty good. I thought the band that was playing the Leonard Skinner songs was incredible. And I guess that's Ronnie Van Zant's brother, Johnny, that does all of the vocals now. Although they used, you saw none of this, right, Bill? I assume? I think they used Ronnie Van Zant on Freebird. Someone who was watching, y'all tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. The spouse of Ronnie Van Zant has long resisted using his vocals and laying it over live performances of Freebird. But apparently, the story I read over the weekend was that Dolly Parton wanted to use Freebird as the closer of her rock and roll album, and she got permission to do so, and then she went directly to Ronnie Van Zant's widow and asked if she could use some of his vocals along with her vocals to kind of form a duet. And that Ronnie Van Zant's widow allowed her to do it. And I feel like the report...
Because it's Dolly.
Because it's Dolly. That's right. I mean, sure. I mean, Dolly says jump. I say how high. By the way, I almost had to kick a guest out of my house, Bill. A personal friend, a former producer of mine, who's now in New York City working at a big-time television station in New York, almost had to kick him out of his
Were they doing coke
house.
in the bathroom?
They were not doing coke in the bathroom. There's specific instructions as to what you can and cannot do in my bathroom.
Nice embroidery sign in a frame says don't do that.
Says please don't do coke. It says please don't do coke in the bathroom.
That's true.
But they were not doing coke in the bathroom. He was wearing intentionally, by the way, knew what he was wearing, a Reba McEntire T-shirt in my home.
What the hell's wrong with that?
And he declared as he was wearing it that, well, I just wanted to showcase the queen of country music.
Oh, see, now that I know the full story, my respect for you has just completely plummeted for not having thrown him out of the house.
I mean, he's gigging me. He's intentionally
that's exactly
doing
what he's
this.
doing.
I mean, it's one thing to declare this just a matter of taste, and it's another thing to try to intentionally gig me on.
In your own home.
In my own home. And I told him that you could take that
But you didn't
elsewhere.
throw him out.
I did not throw him out.
Weak move.
I know. I should have. I regret it. All right, 12:31, Congressman Tim Burchett coming up in just a moment. We'll talk about 2024 that will be. I'm so excited about this year. I cannot tell you. I'm just giddy with anticipation. It is going to be on fire. And I'll tell you why I believe that. 12:31, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the world-famous Glock Store. New year, same old Glock Store. And I say same old Glock Store, that's a great thing. They're the best in the business when it comes to helping you understand how to shoot with their incredible shooting rooms. We'll get into that in just a moment. Plus, they have a wonderful retail space available for you to select a gun of your choosing or accessories of your choosing. I'm looking at some of the limited edition Glocks that they have in stock at the world-famous Glock Store. They are fabulous. There's something for everyone at the Glock Store, whether it's a 19 or a 43 or a 43X. I've got one of those in my home. I mean, they have it all. And not just Glocks, they've got other brands as well at the Glock Store. We talk about the retail side all the time. They've got wonderful accessories. I talk about the concealed carry underpants because I get a lot of amusement out of the concealed carry underpants. But it's so much more than that. It's friendly staff helping you, whatever your level of expertise is with regard to the Second Amendment. They can help you along your journey of self-protection. Plus, they've got the training rooms, not lanes, rooms, and they have trainers that can help you in them. Go to glockstore.com or shoot270.com for more information and tell them that Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only world-famous Glock Store. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. On this second day of January, pleased to be with you. The Harvard University president, Claudine Gay, is resigning. It is a major story, sure. It is currently leading every major news outlet in the United States of America. I just don't know that this has the impact in our lives that some media outlets are treating it as. I just don't see it. Harvard University is a leftist, brainwashing university. I almost said something else, and I decided against it. And they're going to remain that way. They have lost their way. They have lost their charter. Now, if you were to tell me that this is going to get them back on the right track, okay. But I don't think it is. In the meantime, anticipating a conversation with Congressman Tim Burchett, you on the super text line joining in. No offense, but Kitty Wells is the queen of country music. Well, one, you couldn't offend me if you tried, 5601. Number two, we all have our own opinions. And number three, I never said who was the queen of country music. Frankly, I think that Loretta Lynn probably has an angle on the queen of country music. Now, America's princess is Dolly Parton. That said, the decision to just lost the story. Dadgummit. The Department of Justice, here it goes. The Department of Justice has made a decision to, quote, avoid a second trial charging Sam Bankman-Fried with a conspiracy to make unlawful political donations and bribery of foreign officials. And it has a lot of folks up in arms, and rightly so. If there's a better example of deep state politics, I've not seen it. To speak on that, we welcome back to the show Congressman Tim Burchett, who joins the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Congressman, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your time.
Hey, Matt. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it seems like a new week, a new issue, and you are speaking truth to power with regard to some of these issues. Talk to me about the deep state and how the Department of Justice is falling prey to what I consider to be a deep state effort to avoid this trial against Sam Bankman-Fried. Talk to me.
One of the words I've used a lot more this past couple of years is compromised. We are completely compromised, whether it be the Jeffrey Epstein situation, China balloon flying over our country, or this Sam Bankman-Fried deal. Here's what this guy did. He stole money from people, stole billions with a B, not million, not your average everyday $1 million stealer. He's a $1 billion stealer. And he gave it to political people to run campaigns, mostly Democrats. Some actually went to Tennessee. But now we're finding out that we're some Republicans, and we think maybe some of our former leadership in the Republican House used it to go after conservative Republicans in the primary, because we have this thing, you basically take a blood oath not to go, leadership can't go against anybody in their primary. And you remembered Liz Cheney went after Thomas Massey, said he was a special case, and she went after him, and then she got bumped out pretty quick out of office. But the truth is on this deal is they've stole this money. Politicians should give it back. They were closing in on all the corruption within that he had given to these corrupt politicians, and now they backed off, said they've got enough on him on the other. They're not going to do the other. I mean, where else do you see this? But in big time politics with big influential political people or billionaires, and in this case, it has a little bit of both. It's just unbelievable. And then you've got probably members of Congress who are serving who shouldn't, who probably have been put in office by some of this backdoor money, dark money, if you will, and which there's basically no limit. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're in a real situation now in this country where the ruling class, I mean, they peeled the curtain back on this one. Everybody should see what's going on with this. This is you've got the courts are compromised because powerful people are involved, powerful people in Washington, and it's just got to end.
Well, how do we end it is the big question. I mean, how do we get to the bottom of who was and who was not affected by some of these campaign donations, illegal campaign donations? And, I mean, what do we do now?
Well, honestly, if you see a bunch of I suspect you're going to see the 8 of us who on the Republican side who went against McCarthy. You'll see some of that money go there. And honestly, I think we ought to just start demanding more from our elected officials. Again, I go back to this. When you have 18 or 15% of the people go to polls on Election Day, they get their political advice from The View, and then good Christians decide not to go to the polls because of a mean tweet, and you see what's happening. It's happening at every level of government, every aspect, healthcare, education, financial, our court system. They're all being weaponized against good Americans. These people hate our country. They hate everything we're about. This guy was a radical and was given billions, and he stole it, and then he used it in campaign account to give to campaigns, and the campaigns should be forced to give it back. They ought to give it back just out of their own conscience because it's public where a lot of the money went. There's about 30 or so. There's actual pictures of how much was given, and of some of it. I'm not sure you'll ever find out where all of it went, but it's just pathetic. And I'm upset about it. I tweeted about it on my X account at Tim Burchett. I talked about the deep state, and that's what it is. It's a uniparty that has nothing to do with. They don't care about Republicans or Democrats. You can sort of see who the uniparty is when you see that fringe person out on the tarmac when the president rolls in, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. They got deep pockets and they know how to use it. But now it's being more and more exposed because of the internet, but we don't have the guts to do anything about it.
When federal prosecutors say, as they did Friday afternoon, that they do not plan to proceed with a second trial against Sam Bankman-Fried because, quote, public interest in a speedy resolution of the case is forefront in their minds. I mean, it's as if they're not even bothering to come up with a decent excuse, Tim.
It sounds like they got the vice president writing their press releases. To be honest with you, brother. But because it makes no sense, and they're federal courts. They can do whatever they want, and that's why elections matter. Two things the president really does. He sets the national agenda, and he appoints these dadgum federal judges for life. And if you don't think your vote matters, this is another instance of it, and we've got to hold them accountable. This is pathetic. I don't even know what that means. I've talked to legal folks about what that means, and they're just scratching their head. It's just I've heard a saying that the difference between God and the federal courts is God or a federal judge. God knows he's not a federal judge.
Well, and we can laugh about it and we can make jokes about it, and I choose to do that because the alternative is infuriating. And here that is. That this is the same Department of Justice that is spending untold millions of dollars harassing American citizens about their dynamics and whereabouts on January 5th, January 6th, and January 7th of 2021, right? These are individuals that have been consistently harassed, and these are untold millions of dollars being wasted at this stage because anybody that needed to be prosecuted has already been prosecuted. Yet at the same time, they're claiming that they're saving the taxpayers' dollars by not going after this scumbag who was in bed with liberal politicians, and we know it.
Absolutely. Well, same Justice Department. We're not going to go after the cocaine in the White House. We got it narrowed down to 200 people, so we're going to call the investigation off. It's just Washington in general, man. I mean, you're not going to go after. We're not going to knock down this Chinese spy balloon because it's not doing anything. Now we know it got into our servers, and we could have monitored it. It's just the border. I mean, when are we going to wake up as a country and start throwing these Democrats and gutless Republicans out? When are we going to start doing that? And when are we going to stop, allowing them to go after conservatives, which is what they'll be doing this next election? McCarthy and that bunch are going to spend $17 million on these races that they should have been, instead of living a lavish lifestyle of flying around in a jet airplane with who knows who and staying at 4-star resorts. They were supposed to have been using that in campaigns, but they didn't. And it's dark money, and they're going to be allowed to use it anywhere. And you'll see that this time. And anybody that attempts to get this Epstein stuff out, I suspect they'll probably see their political or other demise, because that thing goes deep, and the Justice Department, again, is compromised and won't do a dadgum thing.
I want to ask you I consider it a related question, and this might hit a little too close to home for some in the state of Tennessee, but I'm going to do it anyway. So there was a recent report that came out regarding calculations of the estimated current stocks held by each member of Congress and their portfolios versus what the year-to-date returns are for the average folks for the stock market. And
right.
A lot of politicians are doing a lot better than the average people in the stock market, including one of our own, Congressman Mark Green, who performed 122.2% better than the market. Now, I'm not suggesting that he's doing anything wrong, and I like Mark a lot, and I imagine you like him as well, Tim. I don't know, but do you believe that broadly individuals that are called to public service and are serving their individual states as congressmen or senators, should they be allowed to continue to engage in the stock market?
No, I do not. I think it ought to be put in a mutual fund, which is where I got my money. But what Mark Green does is that, he has a stockbroker that monitors and does his stuff. I've talked to him about this in the past, and he actually, it's not a hands-off kind of account, which is really what we should all have. And, because obviously you got a stockbroker that knows more about what's going on than you or I do.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what bothers me the most is when a perfect example of that, I'm glad you brought this up, was when we went to Ukraine, and then we very graciously gave them our missile defense system, and then yet we had to re-up our own missile defense system and went to our good political supporters at Raytheon, and a bunch of members of Congress owned stock in Raytheon, and had bought that stock just prior to that decision, that public decision. And it was made in private on some of those committees that would have been like our Intelligence Committee and others. And that's where I got a real problem. You got chairmen of these committees, both Democrat and Republicans. We talk about Pelosi making 78%, and it's beyond me. My $7,000 portfolio I have is dwindling. It's not doing so well right now. But I'm over it. I would vote for that in a heartbeat. But you'll never see that bill get to the floor. And if it got to the floor, it would never be brought up in the Senate.
Well, it makes me feel. It reminds me a little bit. It's unrelated, but I've long believed that we needed to have a loser pays system initiated in American in our judicial system and in our civil courts. But it's never going to happen because the lawyers make way too much money, and there are way too many lawyers in government, right?
Absolutely.
So as much sense as it might make to avoid any accusations of malfeasance or insider trading with your Congress people, you're never going to see an elimination of this and a mutual fund rule come into place because they're making too much money.
Oh, making way too much money. And I want to tell you how the ethics, I got turned off on all that in the beginning. I asked a question about selling stuff on eBay. I used to like doing eBay. I always said it was like having a garage sale, but nobody has to use your bathroom. So I go see the ethics guy with another. I asked the question. All these people would ask these questions, and they get a yes or no answer. And I said, hey, if I do eBay, is that legit? And can I do that? And he said, well, if you and he said, you need to come see me and let's talk about it. And so I go see him, and I went with another member, and he's not a member anymore, but he talked about his consulting business that he had, and he said, well, it was dealt with the military. He says, well, if you're not specifically voting on it, it'd be okay. We don't have a problem with that unless you're on one of the committees that specifically deal. And if you recuse yourself, you'll be okay. It was like, and he said, but if you're really worried about it, I'd just go and sell it. So he ends up selling it for like $800,000, right? I mean, I'm talking about, I maybe did $150 a year on eBay. It was just something kind of fun to play with. I'd sell a baseball card or a comic book or something I'd had. And so I go see this guy, and he says, hey, he runs me through the ringer. It's like, is there any way a lobbyist could find out it's you? And I don't know. I went through all the stuff, and they figured it out that I could probably do it if I make it. It's a kind of an account. Nobody would know it's me is what it amounted to. And then the other guy, he talks about his business with the military, and then he turns around and says, you got anything else? He goes, yeah. He goes, I got a distillery. And he goes, really? He goes, I really like gin. He goes, oh, good. I'll bring you a case. And then the ethics attorney says, hey, it's legal, but my boss kind of frowns upon it. If you just kind of keep it on the QT, that'd be great. And I thought that was my introduction to Washington, D.C., ethics. And that's pretty much it. Everybody's getting greased. You better watch them. And but on Mark Green's account, he and I have talked about this in the past. He turns it over. It's kind of a blind deal where his stockbrokers do it all.
Well, I get that, Tim, and I'm not asking you to account for it. We'll have plenty of opportunity to speak with Congressman Green. It looks bad, and it gives Democrats carte blanche to do whatever they want because they can point to Republicans and say, well, they're doing it too, even though they're doing different things.
Yeah.
I mean, the perception becomes reality. But look, plenty of time to discuss that. Thank you for your wisdom with regard to the Department of Justice and Sam Bankman-Fried. We will continue to monitor the story. I appreciate you leading in that. I got to run, but thank you for your time, my friend. I appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. Keep putting the truth out there, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. There's Tim Burchett, Congressman from the great state of Tennessee, joining us for a few good moments. 53 after the hour on Super Talk. Cold outside, huh? I mean, it's wintertime. It ought to be cold outside. And if you have already taken up my advice and found Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, then you don't have to worry about it because your heater is running tip-top. But if you've not done so and you feel like you're not running as you should, if you're smelling a weird smell, if you're hearing a weird sound, or if it's just not producing the heat that you expect in the winter months in Nashville and beyond, then it's time to call Efficient Heating and Cooling. Jeff Eddy can give you a second opinion. He can offer you the lowest cost option for fixing your unit, or if it's time, he'll tell you it's time. And you know that you can trust what he says when he tells you it's time for a new unit. When that comes, he's a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and Elite Pro partner with Rheem. There are ways to repair that unit and get additional life out of it. Maybe you can survive for the rest of the winter. But Jeff Eddy will be able to tell you one way or the other, and you can trust when he tells you it's time to go. EfficientHVAC.net is the website, EfficientHVAC.net, or give him a call, 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for our friends at Efficient. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, winding down the first hour of the show. We've got 2 more to go. Happy to have you with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What are your, we don't really do New Year's resolutions, but I'm curious in hour number 2, what you believe to be the biggest story coming up in the new year. I mean, obviously the presidential election is going to be huge. And a lot of factors will happen around the globe and around the United States of America that will impact that presidential election. I'm incredibly excited as to what 2024 is going to bring, and I am surprisingly hopeful. Normally, I'm the resident pessimist, but I don't know why, but I am hopeful that 2024 will bring good things. Your thoughts on that coming up in hour number 2. And what will the big stories be? Will the Ukrainian stalemate be broken? That's a question that on our lips. I think it affects the United States of America. Certainly would dispatch of this nonsense that we continue to have to funnel millions and billions of dollars to the Ukrainian people. What will the result of the Israeli-Hamas war be? Obviously, Israel says that mission will not be accomplished until Hamas is completely and totally eradicated. What will that look like in 2024? What will the aftermath of that be? How long will Israel have to have controlling interest of the Gaza Strip and beyond? These are certain world issues that I think will impact the United States of America. Will we get our southern border security under control for the 2024 elections? I mean, obviously, Joe Biden has no desire to do it for the American people, no desire to do it for the betterment of the United States of America. The question is, will he do it for votes? It remains to be seen. We'll cover it all in hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN this Tuesday, January 2 edition. Give us a call or join in on the conversation, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Back right after this. Top of the hour news happens right now.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. In upstate New York, Rochester police revealing the first details of their investigation into the deadly New Year's Eve intentional car explosion Tuesday morning, identifying the driver as 35-year-old Michael Avery, confirming they're still looking for a possible motive. ABC's Aaron Katersky is in Rochester with more.
Why Avery did this remains something of a mystery. The police chief here in Rochester say that the family believes he was suffering from some kind of an undiagnosed mental health issue. We're told that he's had no prior interaction with police. The chief would not say if the family had ever tried to get him some help.
Avery apparently was aiming for pedestrians when he hit another SUV. He and 2 people in that other vehicle were killed. Harvard's president is the second of 3 Ivy League presidents who testified before Congress to announce their resignation. ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
Amid pressure from congressional Republicans and prominent alums following Claudine Gay's panned performance at a congressional hearing, Harvard's governing board had expressed strong support, calling Gay the right leader to help Harvard heal. But since allegations intensified that she plagiarized some of her academic work, the university's first black president says she's stepping down so that the focus isn't on one individual.
The pilots on board a Japan Airlines flight being held as heroes today after they managed to safely evacuate close to 400 passengers and crew from their aircraft when the jet burst into flames after colliding with a Coast Guard plane while landing at Tokyo's airport. ABC News contributor Steve Gagnon.
We think what happened is that this was pilot error. Somebody, probably on the Japanese Coast Guard side, taxied onto that active runway when they weren't supposed to.
Hezbollah's TV station says a top Hamas official was killed in an explosion south of Beirut. Lebanese security services say 6 people died in the blast. Hamas is blaming Israel, calling it, quote, a cowardly assassination. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy, Defend Systems on my mind in the new year. Let's talk about what Brink and his team of professionals bring to our community here in Middle Tennessee. It's as simple as this. If you are a business owner or if you're a decision maker at a business, at a school, at a church, or at a place that people gather, you need to call Brink Fiddler. Have him get on the phone with you for a short conversation or perhaps stop by and meet with you, consult with you about how Defend Systems can help you and help your business. In the unlikely event that you have a negative workplace situation, perhaps it's workplace violence, perhaps it's even more than that and it's an active shooter situation. God forbid any of these things happen to you. But if they do your people know what to do? Do you know what to do? Do you have an action plan in place? If not, you need rapid response medical training, emergency and intruder action plan, security improvement consultation, all available with Defend Systems. And it starts with a telephone call or an email. DefendSystems.com is the website. That's DefendSystems.com. You've heard Brink on my radio show over the last several years. He is the best at what he does, and that is to provide you peace of mind in the unlikely event that something negative should happen in the workplace, in the school, or in your church. 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for Defend Systems. All right, friends, here we are. Here we go. It's Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Hour number 2 starts right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brand new year, 2024. I don't know what it is about even-numbered. I like even-numbered years better than odd-numbered years. Does that make me, in and of itself, odd? I don't know. But I like even years. Although my lucky number, I've always considered my lucky number to be 13, but even years, 2024 should be a good one. I'm excited about it. I hope you are as well.
Both have the same lucky number.
Oh, shut your mouth. I'm older than her. She stole it from me. I should do some suing or something.
You're just 16 years older. What
did Taylor Swift do for the big holiday, the New Year's Eve holiday? Was she around Nashville? Did she perform?
No, she was in Kansas, not Kansas City, Cincinnati.
She was doing a show in Cincinnati?
No, she was with Kelsey.
What's his name?
Chiefs game. Yeah, Travis
Kelce.
Yeah,
her new BF, her new beau.
Yeah. I
had someone suggest to me over the holiday. Somehow this got brought up. My dislike. I mean, not dislike. I'm dismissive of Taylor Swift. It's just not in my wheelhouse. I don't get anything from her music. It is what
I just don't think you've heard enough of it.
Well, sure. If you just let me thunk on your head a little while longer, you'll start to like it. No, just a little harder. No, it'll be fine. No, I know you hate this, but
use the pointy thing.
Yeah, no, oh yeah. Let me use the stick. The stick will make it better. Just let me poke at you with a stick. Oh, let me use this shovel. Bury me with it. Anyway, I was having this discussion over the weekend, and I had some legitimate positions around the round table that she was going to marry him, that they were going to get married. Which, I mean, whatever. I don't care, but
I'm just really tired of her. You know, all these bad plays that she's calling for the team. It's like, get out of the huddle. I mean, what are you, Yoko Ono? You don't belong down in the field.
Oh no, she's Yoko Ono-ing. No, there's no question. When they're one and done in the playoffs, and McMurray's walking around here with his lips pooched out.
Yeah, he'll be moping.
There will be a lot of finger pointing.
That's the only reason I want the Chiefs to repeat is just so Mac is happy and we don't have to deal with it.
See, that's the difference between you and me, because it's the real reason that I want them to lose. I want to see the moping and the grumping and the complaining.
Nice.
What? They've won. They've won enough. I mean, I heard the same thing about my beloved Georgia Bulldogs. Do you see?
I was being sarcastic because she's getting all this heat for their bad season, like she has anything to do with it.
Well, I mean, mojo. I mean, I think actually, okay, all right, so not that I want to, I'll spend 60 seconds doing this with you. You ready?
Yeah.
Is or is not Travis Kelce one of the key components of their offense?
Yeah.
Has their offense not been suffering over the past 7 or 8 weeks? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
All right, so could I not make an argument that his focus has not been where it needs to be with regard to his level of play?
Then I blame Andy Andy Reid for that.
Okay, that's fine, but you can also blame Taylor Swift for that.
Yeah, she doesn't have anything to do with the team.
She has everything to do with his focus. He went to Brazil during the season.
That was on a bye week.
You've been listening to Maury.
I have.
Is he feeding you information?
He's teaching me stuff, baby. I'm learning.
You don't know this much about the NFL.
I know they play 22 games in a season.
Or something like that. Anyway, the big story of the day, the big story of the hour, the University of Harvard University, their president, Claudine Gay, has officially resigned her position as president of Harvard. Much will be made of this, and rightly so, I suppose. Claudine Gay never should have been president of Harvard. The fact that she was allowed to become president of Harvard is evidence more than anything else, more than her testimony in front of Congress, although that exposed it. Her presence as Harvard president demonstrates to me how much Harvard has lost their way. That they value a system of wokeness, they value a system of diversity to the detriment of their basic standards. Even if what they do in the spirit of diversity goes against some of the basic rules set forth in terms of credibility and integrity and honesty, even if her presence as president goes against those values, they're going to do that for the sake of diversity and wokeness. And it's exactly what they did. So, as the saying goes, and as 50-50 just put it, bye, Felicia. We'll see you soon. Wish you well in your next endeavor, but you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here, as the saying goes. Harvard University President Claudine Gay has resigned. Hopefully Harvard has gotten the message, but I sincerely doubt it.
Have you seen anything, to your knowledge, about any kind of a golden parachute she had?
Oh, I'm sure
I'm curious what she's going to make leaving.
I would expect that that's part of why this happened now and not over the Christmas holiday. I would have expected this to happen about a week ago. I felt like the writing was on the door, and I predicted it on the show, if you remember, that she will not survive this. There are like 5 or 6 examples of plagiarism. Nobody at Harvard cares that she downplayed genocide. Nobody. Nobody at Harvard cares that she stood before the American people and our government and a committee in good standing with said same and declared that, well, you know, when people talk about genocide, it really depends on what the context is. What? What in the hell are you talking about, lady? Nobody cares about that. What they do care about, and thankfully they have some standards left at Harvard, they care about the fact that this woman repeatedly stole the work of others. What I would suggest is there needs to be some sort of investigation as to how she became Harvard's president to begin with, how she overcame the obvious examples of plagiarism to become president of Harvard. Were they so invested in diversity? Were they so invested in wokeness that they allowed this to happen? And this is where diversity for diversity's sake gets you in so much trouble. Everyone wants to see a nation. Everyone wants to see a world, although we don't see it a lot in a lot of parts of the world. But I think we are closer to it in the United States of America than perhaps we've ever been, despite the fact that there are a lot of race hustlers that consider it a cottage industry to continue this perceived racism as it existed 50 years ago today. There are a lot of folks out there. We used to call them the Jesse Jacksons of the world, these race hustlers that make a tidy living on ginning up racial strife in the United States of America. And those people still exist. And I would never suggest to you that racism doesn't still exist. I understand that it does. But largely when it pops its little head out of the ground, it gets whacked back down in there again. I've long said that the overt racism, overt racists, particularly white racists, I don't believe you could fill Nissan Stadium with them. America-wide. Because they have either learned one of two things. They've learned the error of their ways, or they've learned that they're not welcome in polite society. Nor should they be, whether they're white, black, brown, whatever. But we have reached a point that corporations and institutions like Harvard seem to think that it is more important to check a box of diversity than it is to get the best people. And when you begin going down that road, it is not just fraught with peril, it is a road to perish. And it's what Harvard is seeing now. We long for and ought to strive for a colorblind society where you judge the merits of an individual based on, dare I say it, the content of their character, their wealth of knowledge, their level of expertise, their experience, their wisdom through experience. And yes, can their color affect that experience? Of course it can. Can their ethnicity affect that experience? Can their gender affect that experience? Of course it can. Every part of our life experience goes into who we are and how positioned we are to do better than you or the next guy in a particular task or a particular role. So I don't avoid color or gender or ethnicity or national origin as a factor in one's background as it applies to who you are today. But when it becomes the only factor that is worth considering for a university like Harvard, sadly, sometimes you get this. And it will be found out, and I've read reports, speculative though they may be, it will be determined that there were red flags all over the joint about this lady. And I've already read some reports where some people who were kind of, you know, the old drill, like, you know, you got a big corporate room. The idea is you got a big room full of people, and poor old Smoots there in the corner. I always call him Smoot because I like the name. You know, Smoots over there in the corner. Nobody ever listens to Smoot. Smoot doesn't speak up very much, but there he is raising his hand in the corner. Excuse me, sir. Yes, Smoot, you had a point to make? I think this woman has been accused of... Shut up, Smoot! She's an African-American. She's a diversity hire. Be you quiet. How dare you? We'll kick you out of this room post-haste. Call you a racist. Oh, sorry, sir. I'll sit back down. Poor Smoot. I guarantee you someone raised a flag. Someone raised a flag.
Oh, it was only 5 or 6 times.
I mean, come on. Just anybody can be guilty of stealing 5 or 6 or 7 times.
The first 4 cars he stole were an accident. The 5th wasn't intentional.
In the meantime, it is making headlines on all the major news outlets. It is rightly so a lead story. At the same time, I don't know that it impacts most of us. Harvard could die. Harvard could cease to exist, and I don't know that it would substantially impact the rest of the United States of America. They have failed as the premier institution in the Ivy League system. They have failed as one of the premier learning institute, private though they may be, one of the premier learning institutions in the United States of America. They have failed because they have chosen the path of diversity for diversity's sake. And that is a failure of a model in any dynamic. It is a failure of a model to value a condition that you have nothing to do with above and beyond all of those things that you do have something to do with. Now, it should not be a detriment to your promotion. It should never be a detriment or it should not be a contributing factor in disallowing you from the opportunities that present themselves in the United States of America. Does this make sense to everyone? That conditions that exist through no fault or through no benefit of your own, in other words, those things that exist that you have nothing to do with, conditions of one's birth, they should not impede you on your path to success in the United States of America, nor should they elevate you above and beyond others on their own individual paths. That is what ultimately a colorblind society looks like, although I'm now told that MLK was wrong. We are now told by the modern DEI class that diversity for diversity's sake is a valued goal at these august institutions. Nope. I don't play that, nor should you. 19 after the hour, 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of this show. There are Senate seats up for grabs. I want to talk some politics coming up in just a moment in 2024. We'll also tell you why I don't believe that the Jeffrey Epstein reveal is going to get the media play that you think it's going to get. I see a convenient out on the part of leftist media, and it involves our own Donald J. Trump. We'll talk about it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. New year and a brand new sponsor to the Matt Murphy Show and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is PAI. Let's talk about it. We Grow Hair is the company, and it's the only company in the state to have PAIs. It's Matt Murphy, and if you want to look better and feel better about yourself, 2024 can be the year you grow your hair back. The multi-unit hair grafting procedure is trademarked. It gives you more hair in one procedure, which saves you time and money, and nobody else has it. It's backed by the only company that I trust to help thinning hair with their hair transplant procedures. That's We Grow Hair. I've sat down with We Grow Hair down in Brentwood. They've looked over me, and they've given me the thumbs up. Now, I am told that at some point I might want some laser treatment just to make sure that I continue to have my full and robust head of hair at the age of 50. However, if you are thinning, you need a company that you can trust, and they've been here in Nashville for over 26 years. They help the muckety mucks continue their hair growth, and they can help you as well. Regrow Hair can help restore that hair. Regrow Hair is right for you. They're in Nashville, and they will be there for you before, during, and after your procedure. Check out their website at wegrowhair.com. That's wegrowhair.com with amazing results, or give them a call to schedule your private consultation today. Here's that number, 615-376-6010. 376-6010 for We Grow Hair. $120. Whoa. I got really loud on my end. I don't know if it was my end or your end. 123, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 124 now that I've figured it out. our technical issues. It was on my end. You can listen on 99.7 FM. You can listen on any of the applications of your choosing. Really, I encourage you to go to the WTN app and find us there. But you can find us on iHeart. You can find us on Spotify. Anywhere where there is a streaming of news, music, or information, you can find Supertalk 99.7 WTN. And then, of course, there's Supertalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. A lot of great things coming in 2024, to include podcasting. Like, I'm going to start a podcast this year. Have I told you about my podcast? I think I have.
Yes. We've had discussions.
Mm-hmm. That's coming. More information to come.
I had an intro built and ready to go, which will probably be thrown out by the time we get around to doing it.
Well, it will be irrelevant, or it will be dated beyond belief by the time we actually get it. Because I said we almost started the podcast last year. And just to peel the curtain back a little bit for you. So I have two podcasts that I'm going to crank up simultaneously. One is an interview-based podcast, a little more long-form ability to sit down with people that you may or may not know. And that's going to be called The Only Thing I Know About You with Matt Murphy. The other one will be with our resident establishment conservative, Cameron Smith, and that will be called All the Best Words, and that will be coming up in 2024 as well. We initially thought about starting these podcasts in 2023 as audio only and then adding video to the audio, but we decided just to launch everything at once. That involves a podcast space, and we've got one that's coming that will be here soon, I think once the furniture is delivered. That is what I'm told, and that is sometime in late winter or early spring of 2024. So it is on the horizon, additional programming for you and for all of you on Supertalk 99.7 WTN, on our website, 997WTN.com, in addition to the other podcasts that we already do up there, which are largely based on some of the programming that you already hear on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. This will be in addition to of the already fine programming, live and local as it is. All right, so has anyone noticed, by the way, before I get off the subject of websites, and when did Fox News demand my email in order to read articles? Have you noticed this? Has anyone else noticed this?
I'm honestly surprised they weren't already doing it.
Well, it's not that they're asking for money, which I guess I should be happy about, but they want my email, and what they're doing, obviously, is they're selling my email to third parties.
Yeah, they're going to make more money off that email than they would from a subscription.
But that's fine, too, because I do it like normally my routine is on Sunday afternoons, I try to call certain emails out of my email inbox. And so I'll do the unsubscribe bit for about 30 minutes on Sunday afternoons. Believe it or not, with my email at Matt at murphyshow.com. That's Matt at murphyshow.com is my regular email, my email. There's also a company email that you can find online at 997WTN.com. But they go to the same place. So whether you use mine or the company's, you'll get to the same spot. That said, Matt at murphyshow.com. So I will regularly go through there and unsubscribe to a bunch of them. And I get probably, I don't know how many a week. It really doesn't. I mean, new ones. And so you have to go and regularly do that. So I don't mind that as much as a paywall. But why do I feel like this is the beginning of a paywall? I feel that way. But anyway, I have to give my email information in order to get on Fox News' website now. Terry writes in, when will the progressives admit that hiring based on race and sexual identity has been a colossal failure? Hello, can you say Kamala Harris? That's Terry in Tennessee.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Yes, they will never admit it, Terry. The political left is not in the business of admitting that they're wrong. And one of the reasons that they never have to admit failures is they have the mainstream media on their side. And it's one of the central reasons that we on talk radio are seen as such a threat in 2024, and others in the podcast spaces and other conservative spaces are looked at, internet-based, are looked at as such a threat. We are a threat to the monolithic attitude and talking points presented by most in mainstream media, or what is also known today as legacy media. We're a threat to that. We're a threat to them. And because they can't handle divergent voices, they can't handle divergence of opinion, ideological positioning, they threaten and they attack. So they don't apologize, and they never admit that they're wrong, ever. They just ignore and move forward, and their convenient sycophants in the mainstream media allow them to do so. I've long said this. Write it down. Tell people that I told you the info first. Democrats got it good, baby. I mean, how easy must it be to be a Democrat politician? You get away with saying anything you want. You can make up anything you want. Nobody calls you on it. You can commit egregious violations of the law and, for the most part, get away with it. I mean, look at Menendez in New Jersey. Bob Menendez got caught with hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash and gold bars in his home, and he's still serving in the United States Senate. Where's the demand that Bob Menendez resign? Well, not just from his colleagues, you won't see that, but from the mainstream media. If they harped on Menendez the same way that they harped on, what was the old boy from New York? I forget his name.
Santos.
George Santos. Thank you, Bill. If they harped on Menendez the same way they've harped on Santos, he'd be long gone, but they don't do that. They don't do that. 0231 says, I'm going to start using your email. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Don't do that. And then there's this. Whoa, I lost the page where it said someone was saying that they had been skipped over for a job because they were white. And that they did not.
Yeah, it's 9062. I work for big tech. I've been directly told that I need not apply because I do not meet the diversity requirements for a job.
I would note, and I would note that I could not find that because you had responded to it and you had moved it to the front of the line, which happens
I thought
quite
you wanted
often.
it in the front of the line.
You liar. Yes, I work for big tech. I've been directly told I need not apply because I did not meet the diversity requirements for a job.
Which that is absolutely illegal to do that.
Of course it is. They'll deny it.
We never said that.
Yeah, they'll deny ever saying it. They'll deny ever doing it.
His qualifications weren't what we were looking for.
There'll be plenty of excuses. But, you know, there is a group of people that you can discriminate against carte blanche and never expect to be called on it, and that is straight, white, conservative males. And I fit most of those. Not all of them, because I've never claimed to be a conservative. It's 132. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mark and the team at Nashville Safe House have more of a selection of safes than you can possibly imagine until you see them for yourself. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy here for the Safe House. Nashville Safe House is located on 4th Avenue South. I've been telling you about them for years now. If you want to protect your valuables and keep them secure from theft or from fire, don't hide them in a box. Don't hide them in a file folder underneath your bed. There's no better way to secure your valuables than to purchase a quality safe from Nashville Safe House. They have a better quality of safe, and they have a better selection of safes than any other safe company in America. And that's me saying that, and I'm telling you, I defy you to find me a better selection anywhere in this country. Now, we know they have more safes than anyone in the Southeast. I don't know that we've walked through every safe store in America, but I can tell you that you will find the safe right for you at Nashville Safe House. That's the bottom line. They have over about 200 safes on display and another 400 or so oftentimes in their warehouse. And, yeah, this is on display, so you can see them, you can walk through them, and I encourage you to do that today. 4th Avenue South, or go online at NashvilleSafehouse.com. Tell Mark and his team that Matt Murphy sent you in 2024 to get a new safe from Nashville Safe House. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Would love to hear from you on this Thursday. Give me a call, 615-737-9986. That's OG texting right there, 615-737-9986. You may text the show if you so desire as well. It's 1:35, and a good afternoon to you. So I feel a little bad for bringing this up because I kind of feel bad for Gloria Johnson. Does anyone else feel a little bad for Gloria Johnson? I mean, Gloria Johnson's got a hard time of it. You know, she's been a longtime Democrat in the state of Tennessee. You know, one of those lonely blue voices in a sea of red. She has to get about her business in such a way where she has to live a lie. And I feel kind of bad for that person. I don't know Gloria. I've invited her repeatedly on the show. She's welcome anytime she wants to come up. I talk to anyone and everyone. Anyone and everyone that has entertainment and news value, I will talk to on the show. And I think Gloria does. She has offered herself up to service in the United States Senate. She is a Democrat candidate to take on Marsha Blackburn. I think she has a primary opponent in the Democrat primary, if I'm not mistaken. So she has to overcome that first and then take on Marsha. In order to be a Democrat like Gloria, not only do you have to act in a subservient way to others who are newer to the process, like Justin Jones. Gloria Johnson has to naturally be subservient to Justin Jones because Justin Jones is black. That's the way it works in Democrat Party politics. Secondarily, she acts subservient to Justin Pearson because he's a black male. I don't make those rules, but they're pretty obvious when you observe the goings-on of what I call the bullhorn trio over the last year or so. Secondarily, Gloria Johnson has to live in a world where she believes Tennessee is a different place than it actually is. She has to make up a fantasy world in order to convince herself that she's making something of a difference in this state. Sadly, she hates the state that she lives in. However, because of that, she makes up this fantasy land that she pretends to live in so as to not hate it as much as she actually does.
Marquita Bradshaw from Memphis.
There you go. And
that's her primary opponent.
It remains a open question as to whether or not Marquita Bradshaw will beat Gloria Johnson or not. But the reason I feel bad for Gloria is that CNN, I say hashtag never CNN. I'll watch CNN so you don't have to. It's a garbage network full of garbage people spewing out, well, garbage. CNN posted a story a couple of days ago, and I flagged it for presentation today, regarding the, quote, high-stakes presidential election that takes on an increased significance for Democrats' precarious path to holding power in the Senate. A lot of alliteration from anxious anchors placed in powerful posts. CNN pontificates that the election map indicates that this is going to be a pretty difficult year for Democrats in the United States Senate, and they're right. Joe Manchin's decision not to run for re-election indicates that West Virginia is about to run red in that Senate seat. And I don't think there's any way for the Democrats to stop it. The 2024 playing field in the United States Senate is rather advantageous for Republicans. CNN says, but President Joe Biden winning re-election would give Senate Democrats a slight cushion because of the tie-breaking role of the vice president in an evenly divided chamber. The GOP needs to pick up only 1 or 2 seats, depending on which party wins the White House, to flip control of the Senate. Virginia has long ranked as the seat most likely to flip, and with Manchin's departure, Republicans are now almost certain to pick it up. So they go on to talk about seats most likely to flip, and this is the beautiful thing about elections. When Democrats don't have the ability to steal them, when the voters are left to decide how these things work out, the Democrats have laid an ideological playing field bare. And they've made it plain that they believe in these extremist socialist positions of their political party more so than they believe in Democrats in Iowa. They believe in the New York City position on issues more so than they believe in, I don't know, the Democrats that might be living in Montana right now. They have an ability to attract middle America with some of their policy positions, and they choose to go directly 180 degrees away from those things that might draw people in. Joe Biden has done, there was a time when Joe Biden was considered a moderate choice, far too moderate for the leftist wing of his political party. And look, and I don't believe Joe Biden knows his butt from a hole in the ground. The man has dementia written all over him. And I'm on record as saying there's zero chance that he will be the political nominee after their convention. I thought this would have happened by now, but it has not. And I do not see by summer how the Democrats that are actually in charge don't understand that Biden, even as a figurehead for your party, is a drag, and it will ultimately lead to Donald Trump's reelection. I hope that's what happens. But I don't think even Democrats are that dumb. But regardless what they can or cannot steal from the presidency, and regardless of where they choose to live and breathe in terms of the ideological spectrum, and they've lurched way left, they always overplay their hand, they're about to get their butts handed to them in the United States Senate. West Virginia is one. Democrat Joe Manchin has decided not to run for re-election. By the way, Donald Trump carried West Virginia by about 40 points in the last presidential election. So Republicans are going to pick up that seat. It is almost a fait accompli. I would doubt that the national Democrats spend a lot of time or money in West Virginia. I think they give up on it. But that's not the only one. You also have Montana. Democrat John Tester has long been known as a moderate's moderate. His reelection bid will be a barometer as to whether incumbents with a brand unto themselves can still buck the partisanship of their states. Manchin had that going for him, and he was the name that was nationally known, right? Joe Manchin had made a name for himself that carved a niche above the label of Democrat. And he was able to win re-election. I don't know that Joe Manchin could have won re-election this time around or not. I don't think John Tester can either. Tester's done a similar thing in Montana, but Republicans have been enthusiastic about presenting a candidate of their own. There are a couple of Republicans that are vying for the possibility of running against Tester. I think there's a U.S. representative, and I don't remember, it's Matt Rosendale, I think that's right. And there's also a Navy SEAL that's running in that race. but it's expected that Tester is going to have, pardon the expression, a little bit of a test. Ohio, I don't think Mike DeWine did Sherrod Brown any favors in Ohio. Senator Brown is another Democrat facing re-election in a state that Donald Trump carried on 2 separate occasions. And I think Mike DeWine's demonstration that every Republican is not a real conservative with his decision-making last week regarding transgender youth, I think that will ultimately whip back on Ohio, and that will hurt their chances. There's another race in Pennsylvania, just running these down, but I'll make the ultimate point about Gloria Johnson here in a second. Pennsylvania, it's a clear path for Dave McCormick. Obviously, McCormick was working toward a Senate seat when he was bested by Mehmet Oz. That should not happen this time around. And now they've already launched their fight against Bob Casey well before the election year even started. That race has been going on for months now. Arizona, you've got independent Kirsten Sinema, who continues to be coy about whether or not she's going to run for re-election as an independent or choose a political party. That's a contested race that very, very easily could go to Republicans. Nevada has one as well. Wisconsin, Republicans don't have a major candidate there, but it's expected that Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin is going to get a fight on her hands. In Michigan, there is a huge race going on there. There's a retiring Senator, Debbie Stabenow. Texas is considered the one race that could swing against Republicans. This is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz only won his race last time around by 3 points. Ted Cruz is an attractive boogeyman for the left because he is so outspoken and a little bit awkward. But I believe that there will be massive amounts of money infused into the state of Texas, and I would expect a little bit of voting shenanigans because Texas has been inundated with illegal aliens, some of whom are going to want the right to vote, whether they've been there for several years or several months. So that will be fraught with illegal ballots and ballot harvesting and these types of things. And then Florida is the final race. So the CNN story that I'm referencing has 10 races in it. How sad are you if you're Gloria Johnson and they don't even list you as the top 10, one of the top 10 contested races? Yet she lives in a world where she claims she's going to secure victory over Marsha Blackburn, over Senator Blackburn. Now, I understand that some of us have, frustrations with Senator Blackburn. I have frustrations with any politician with regard to priorities and where they put their central focus and where they might not put their central focus. But I don't allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good when it comes to Blackburn or Haggerty or anybody else for that matter. You evaluate on a case-by-case basis, and you move forward with that. I'll tell you this, Marsha Blackburn is a damn sight better than Gloria Johnson, who is a socialist, certainly, and seems to think she lives in a state that she doesn't live in, consistently repeating or regurgitating that Tennessee is much bluer. Tennessee doesn't believe in the Second Amendment. Tennessee doesn't believe in protecting our children from transgender puberty blocker type issues or surgery type issues that will mutilate the child permanently. She's on the wrong side of all of these issues, yet doesn't seem to understand why more Democrats aren't supporting her. Because they don't exist, Gloria. They're not here. I understand that you want to live in a fantasy world where the state of Tennessee is actually blue, but it's not. Oh, you've got a little dot in Knoxville, certainly a slightly larger dot in Nashville, and a slightly larger dot still in Memphis. But other than that, ruby red, baby, and expected to remain so 2024 and beyond. So there's a little election run. There's hope in 2024. I guess what I'm trying to present to you is I am so hopeful from a political perspective. Does it not feel like the end of the Jimmy Carter era? I know that I wasn't politically aware in 1978, 1979, and 1980. If you were, tell me, 615-737-9986, does 2024 not feel a little bit like 1980? That we've had to deal with the policies of a Democrat president for these 4 years? The awfulness of dealing with that? The inability for said Democrat to navigate us out of some of the economic woes that we're feeling as a country, the inflationary byproduct of Democrat policies that we're feeling, the woeful energy policy presented by Joe Biden, the woeful foreign policy presented by Joe Biden. You tell me, does 2024, not 44 years later, feel a little bit like 1980? I understand that the candidate's a little bit different on the Republican side, but it certainly feels that way to me. 615-737-9986. Would love to speak to you on the matter. That's also the super text line. It's 149. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back right after this. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here. Do you want to feel better, look better in 2024? It's the year that you can grow your hair back. It's We Grow Hair, which is the only company in the state of Tennessee to have PAI's multi-unit hair grafting procedure. What does that mean to you? It means that this procedure gives you more hair in one procedure. That means you save time, you save money, and nobody else has it. It's backed by the only company that I would trust to help you with your thinning hair with their hair transplant procedure. I've walked through their offices, and I've talked to their professionals, and they are incredible. They've had over 26 years experience right here in Nashville at We Grow Hair. Trust me, your looks are important. Too important to go to anybody else. Find out why thousands of men just like you have chosen We Grow Hair to restore their hair. They gave me the thumbs up when I went in for my diagnosis. I had a private consultation of my own. Wanted to make sure that everything was A-okay with my hair, and they gave me the thumbs up, said everything's A-okay. I might need some laser treatments, and I'll tell you about that as the winter becomes spring. But in the meantime, I want you to check out their website, wegrowhair.com, the incredible results that they provide, or call and schedule a consultation today at 615-376-6010. 376-6010 for We Grow Hair and PAI. Coming up in the next hour to include a discussion about 1980 versus 2024 and whether or not that is an appropriate comparison. We'll also talk about the immigration crisis that exists at the southern border, illegal immigration crisis, I should say. There were almost 300,000 migrant encounters in December. It broke the record for the highest month in history. That is breaking a record that was set in October. November is now 3rd. I think September is 4th. I think I have that right. Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached. Joe Biden should be impeached. I don't know if it's anything other than a high crime and or misdemeanor that he has abdicated his responsibility to protect the United States of America vis-a-vis our southern border, but he doesn't. But that call for impeachment falls on deaf ears. It's not going to happen that way. But I have some additional information about some of the migrants, quote unquote, that are being bussed into other parts of the country, to include New Jersey and Chicago. That's on the way, coming up in a moment. I asked the question, does this not feel like 1980 all over again? I understand there are certain differences in the dynamic, but we have entanglements in the Middle East that we can't seem to get a handle on. We've got an energy malaise in the United States of America, not to the degree that was going on in 1980, but certainly one that is felt. We have inflation, not to the degree that was happening in 1980, but it's certainly being felt when we go to the register to pay. What do you say? If you were around back at the time, was it more omnipresent back then than it is today? Are we more subdivided today than we were then? Tracy will be first up on the subject. Tracy, thank you for your call. I'm glad that you made it through. How are you?
Fine, Matt. Enjoy your show today.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I lived through the Carter era. I was making $6 an hour in 1980, and their interest rates I was trying to build a home was 7.99. Gas had gone up. I had to park my four-wheel drive truck, and go to a cheaper model truck just to be able to afford gas. And as far as today, things are a lot worse today, because back then I could live off $20 a week, and get by. I can't live off $20 a day today.
That's the truth. I mean, we've seen the value of the dollar go down, 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 inflation go up, up, up. You're right.
I mean, and then we didn't have the border issue back then like we have now. We had illegal people coming, but nowhere near what we've got now. Well, I can't believe, they're giving them everything free. And the American people, I fought my whole life working. I've got 19 injuries to my body, and I'm in stage 4 LPD now, and I still try to work a little bit every day. Jen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to reflect on what you're talking about, Tracy. The life seems to have gotten harder than it was in 1980. You had far fewer homes that required 2 individuals working in the homes. Nowadays, the average 30 years old, if you're 30 years old with a couple of kids, the odds are that both parents are working in that home, and that wasn't necessarily the case back in 1980, and that wasn't that long ago.
Yes, because my wife and I, when I was married back then, together we might have made $40,000 a year. My son and his wife make well over $150 now, and they can't even afford to live.
Tracy, great call, great comments. I'm going to let some others get in here and give their thoughts on all of this. I appreciate you reflecting on what you remember out of 1980. I was a little too young. I was born in 1973. It is the first presidential contest that I do remember. I remember my grandparents watching the results in November of 1980. I remember learning the name John Anderson. Do you know who John Anderson was? Not the country music singer John Anderson. I think that's right. Fact check me on this, Bell. I think John Anderson was the libertarian candidate.
Sounds right. I'll double check.
That was running alongside Ronald Reagan as the Republican. Jimmy Carter was running for re-election out of the state of Georgia.
And spoiler alert, he got decimated.
Yeah, he got dusted. Walter Mondale got dusted even more so, but Jimmy got dusted. Maybe 1984 is a better example, although because Ronald Reagan had not done everything he needed to do by 1984. We'll continue the discussion next on Super Talk.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Lebanon confirms a major explosion in South Beirut near a Hezbollah stronghold killed at least 6 people today, including a top Hamas leader. While no one group has claimed responsibility, Hamas and Hezbollah are blaming Israel. ABC's Marcus Moore is in Tel Aviv.
If indeed this was an Israeli strike, it's potentially an escalation, a major escalation in this conflict. The question will be is what the response will be, either from Hamas or Hezbollah. Hezbollah has said that if Israel were to carry out an attack in Beirut on either members of their party or Hamas, that they would respond.
An investigation underway after a Japan Airlines Airbus A350 packed with 379 people hit a Coast Guard plane on the runway at Tokyo's airport. Both planes burst into flames. 5 on the Coast Guard plane were killed. Nobody on the Japan Airlines aircraft was seriously hurt. ABC's Alex Stone with more on the investigation.
Japan has a very strong aviation safety system. It's known for its safety, but if it wants any help from the U.S., it would have to request it, and the FAA and NTSB say Japan has not asked for any help. If help was requested, it would come from the NTSB. Airbus, headquartered in France, will be part of the investigation because of the A350 involved.
Meanwhile, in western Japan, a deadly earthquake, 7.6 magnitude, dozens evacuated, tens of thousands along the coast forced to evacuate. The embattled president of Harvard, out.
When asked at a hearing last month whether calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard's harassment rules, Claudine Gay told GOP Congresswoman and Harvard alum Elise Stefanik.
It depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign.
In the wake of the panned performance, Harvard's governing body strongly stood by Gay. But after weeks of scrutiny and allegations that she plagiarized her academic work, Harvard's first black president says she's stepping down, so the focus isn't on one individual.
That's ABC Stephen Portnoy. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy. Mark at the Safe House wants to remind you that even though Christmas has come and gone, you can still collect another present and get that under the tree if the tree still be up, and that's from Nashville Safe House. Let's talk about protecting those valuables that protect you, protecting those weapons or those valuable items from theft or from fire. They have just a tremendous amount of safes in stock. They have a right one for you. They've celebrated over 30 years in business, family-owned and operated every moment of that time. Mark and his team created the Safe House with a couple of things in mind. One, they wanted to have at their fingertips the right safe for you. Two, they wanted to do safes and vault doors, and that's it, and they're doing that. They are safe-specific, so you don't have to worry about them having knowledge about your safe, knowing the combination to your safe. You don't have to worry about the people delivering your safe because your professional delivery is always guaranteed by Nashville Safe House. They offer professional delivery and installation by their specially trained Safe House crews. Don't let a crackhead deliver your safe in the new year. And also, I should remind you, in 2024, gun safes remain sales tax free at the Safe House. That's right, sales tax free. You can save hundreds of dollars on your new safe. So go by Nashville Safe House. It's on 4th Avenue South, right across the street from City Cemetery. Or better yet, stop by online at NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com. Here we go. Hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Show on this Tuesday. Feels like a Monday edition of the broadcast. January 2nd is today. Last I checked, it's 2024, and I thank you for being around. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're very appreciative of that time. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can do so by dialing us up, and I call this the OG text. That's the original way to contact the program through the phone lines. You are also welcome to send us a text message, and you can do that at the same number. Find us anywhere you download or anywhere you stream news or information, even music. That would be Spotify or iHeart, and you can also go to our app. Go to WTN's app right there on your app store and download us and take us wherever you go on your smartphone. Wherever you might be, we'll be there with you. Information fueled and opinion driven on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I asked a question regarding 2024. I just have good feelings about 2024. I feel good about where we are, the soul of the nation at least. I understand that there are bad things going on. I understand that there's unrest in the streets. I understand that you've got disruptions in holiday travel. For example, over the New Year's holiday, you had these pro-Palestinian / pro-Hamas organizations that were coming out in the streets and disrupting said travel. You better get a handle on that, major American cities. Otherwise, it's just going to continue.
I did what I came to do.
Well, I suppose that's true. You certainly accomplished the task, Mr. President. If the task was to put a dagger in the heart of this country to the point that you're bringing us to the brink. But I think we're coming out of it in 2024. I feel good about it. I'm optimistic about it. I think the Senate will, from a political perspective, I expect that Donald Trump will win election in 2024. I expect that the Senate will swing back into Republican hands, and I expect that the House of Representatives will add to their Republican majority. Why? Because of extreme, ideologically bent Democrat policies that do not represent the vast majority of the American people, even if they identify as Democrats. I'm not one of these guys that would suggest to you that every Democrat you meet on the streets are bad people. I don't think they're bad people. I don't know that they're paying attention as much as they perhaps should. And that's part of my job. You attract more flies, and I would recommend to you that we be nicer to our Democrat friends because you attract more flies with honey than you do vinegar. I'm not naive in as much as I know we're not going to get 40% of them. I am concerned about getting enough to win elections. That doesn't mean compromising our principles. That doesn't mean compromising our belief system. Let me give you a good example. And I'll get back to calls momentarily. The issue of abortion. In 2024, every contested election in the United States Senate, the House of Representatives, and certainly the presidential race will involve the issue of abortion. Democrat, remember what I tell you. It's a regular mantra of the Murphy Show. What are the rules of Democrats? They always overplay their hand when they think they have a winning hand, and they think you're dumb. Those two things go hand in hand. They believe they have a winning hand on the issue of abortion, and they might be right depending on how Republicans / conservatives / libertarians, believers in the Constitution of the United States, depending on how they handle the issue. If you come off as cold-hearted, mean-spirited toward women who have, in their minds, legitimate concerns about this issue and government involvement in it, you can lose those women. And those women matter, man. They matter. Because they can turn an election. I believe that a mishandling of the issue of abortion and a misunderstanding as to how the country would react to Dobbs, a properly ruled Supreme Court decision, in my estimation, I've read the decision. I've long argued this was not a matter for the federal government. It was a matter for the states. I've argued that for 25 years. And I'm no legal scholar, but I think I understand this issue as much as the next guy. But I believe from a political perspective, it was misplayed in its aftermath. Instead of engaging in a learning tour instead of taking Dobbs as an opportunity to educate some who might not be educated on the issue, sadly, Republicans took a victory lap instead, thinking that the rest of the country would fall right in line and take a victory lap with them. They did not. And you lost middle-aged suburban women. As a result, you did not see the gains in the House in 2022 that you thought you would. You did not see the gains in the Senate. You did not overtake the Senate in the way that you thought you would. No matter how much you might not like it, and no matter how dug in you are on the issue of abortion, that is not the point. The point is to win elections so as to further advance your cause. And on this front, you have to be sensitive to the emotion of the moment, the emotion of the issue, and the dynamics of the people across the aisle from you. You can bring those people into your tent, or you can choose to ignore them and push them away. And if you do that, I might not have the hopes for 2024 that I thought I would. That's just an example of what I'm talking about when I say you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Don't be a 100%er. Those are not good people. 100%ers, they love to wallow in the arena of no. And they don't win elections. I would rather have, my grandfather told me this years ago, and it was not about political matters. It was about something else. And I forget what the subject matter was about, but I remember what he told me. He asked me a question. Do you want 50% of something or 100% of nothing? Because those are your choices. You're not going to get everything you want. You can either have some of what you want, or you can have none of what you don't, or 100% of what you don't. Your choice. America's got that choice too. Bill is in Nashville with a thought about the Carter election in 1980 against Reagan, or the Reagan election, I should say, and how that applies to 2024. Hello, Bill. Glad you called.
Hey, how y'all today?
Doing well, Bill. Thank you.
Carter, very well. He's as bad as he was, but not as bad as what he had now. I see history repeating itself. The reason Iran got out of hand is because Carter didn't support the Shah.
You know, I bet the Carter administration was as bad as your cell phone signal right now, Bill. I'm going to put you on hold. I'm not hanging up on you. Cell phone technology is a wonderful thing, and it has advanced our business in so many wonderful ways. But one of the sad realities is sometimes you get in a bad cell and your signal sucks, and there you go. I didn't hang up on Bill. Bill, I think you just lost your cell. Call back, and I'll get you back on the line. Stephen is in Clarksville with a thought on all of this. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Stephen. What's on your mind?
You know, I hate you brought up the Carter administration because you brought up some nightmares. I remember I was a young enlisted, just married in 79, and boy, was that a nightmare with a wife and two kids when we was on the WIC program. That's how I remember it. And my wife, she was a militant, conservative with money, but we used to squeeze every Lincoln we had. And I remember that. I mean, we couldn't even get a couch set on credit, so we went, you got to live within your means. But, yeah, I do remember Carter, and it seems similar. I think it's worse now because I don't think Carter did it purposely. I just think he did it ignorantly. This guy here is doing this purposely.
It's one of the observations that I've made in the past to Stephen, and it's very astute of you. And I don't say that just because I agree with you. I think it's a great Jimmy Carter was naive more than anything. I think Jimmy Carter was a good-hearted and is a good-hearted person. I think Jimmy Carter meant the best and thought that his policies would achieve that. Mm-hmm. He just thought too much of people. Yeah. I don't believe that with Joe Biden. I don't know that Joe Biden himself knows what the heck's going on because I think his brain is gone.
He has dementia.
But I do believe the people around him know very well what they're doing.
The inner circle? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See, I retired military. It doesn't mean anything, but there's one thing I know. I don't know if Carter was a globalist, but I do know that this guy is a globalist. And the people he's got behind him is a globalist. He doesn't want our nation to be a nation. wants us under the global agenda, and they're doing anything they can to get this country underneath it.
It's well spoken. Great call, Stephen. Please make it again out in Clarksville. We appreciate the call this afternoon. 215 Supertalk 99.7 WTN. I'm wondering if you have a good feeling like I do about 2024 broadly. And more specifically, what do you expect out of this year? Let me give you another question just to chew on while we've got the roundtable going. Do you believe in 2024 that we will see any portion of the manifesto released? The Nashville Manifesto, the Covenant School Manifesto. I do not. I believe that has been successfully swept under the rug. Let me give you another prediction. I don't know that these Epstein logs are going to go anywhere with any significance for a couple of reasons. One, the Democrats have an incredible network of individuals in place at major media networks that will prevent the masses from getting the real story. Sadly, many of us will not seek these stories out, and information that we can get to online will be spiked or dumped or suppressed in major media outlets regarding the Jeffrey Epstein logs and what we know or don't know about the individuals that went to Epstein Island and some of the pedophilic behavior that went on behind the scenes there. Secondarily, I would predict that the liberals feel like they've got a winning strategy on Epstein, and that is they can, pardon the expression, trump any person that we bring up with regard to Epstein by claiming that Donald Trump was doing the same, because Trump's on a couple of the logs. The flight logs, I mean. I do not diminish in any way the importance of getting to the truth of this matter. However, I don't know that we're going to see some of what some believe they're going to see in this discovery that is set to come out this week. Some of this has been out for a while. We now know that Bill Clinton was a regular on the plane. He was a regular on Epstein Island. I wouldn't put anything past Bill Clinton. The political left will throw, no matter what evidence comes out, they'll throw up Trump. They'll regurgitate Trump. And they'll use Trump as an excuse to misrepresent the story or not represent the story at all. Just a side note on what I expect out of 2024. What do you expect? 615-737-9986. Mike is next out of Donaldson. Hey, Mike. Glad you called. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. Hope you're doing okay.
I am.
I just want to make sure I understand you about principles as it relates to abortion, and let me explain that. I'm never giving up on the issue of abortion, never, and I'll never budge an inch. And I hope that other people that care about that topic will say the same thing. I'm not giving up on it, and if I do, I am giving up on my principle, same as I would do anything else. Because once you give away one thing, you have to give away more. That's one of the most important topics in my life. And I understand people are sensitive to it, but I am too. See, but nobody budges for me. Now, if we keep giving in to the other side, so to speak, I mean, they may say, well, people are sensitive about guns. How many of them am I going to have to give up? Well, about taxes. How much more taxes we're going to have to pay. Where does that end? To pretty soon, you're not even representing a side. You've done joined their side. Where does it end?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't know what you're referencing in terms of my position on the issue. You said you don't have to give up any principles. I just don't understand that. Well, no, this is what I'm saying. That because you believe like you do doesn't mean that that's going to change the law in liberal states. You have to change minds and hearts, and you do a lot more of that through kindness and understanding where the other side is on it than you do through yelling or simply saying, I'm right, you're wrong. I mean, my point is this. You're not going to change the state of California's position on abortion unless you change a lot of hearts and minds, because we believe in a representative republic. And as wrong as I might believe that the other person is, as much as I might argue that there's a third life involved in terms of what we're talking about when we talk about abortion, the baby's life. I have to convince people that their hearts are in the wrong place on this issue. And you do that through love and kindness far more so than you do through...
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Well, respectfully, no, because let me just explain this to you. I'm a kind person. I think I am. But me caving into an issue that I think is vital and moral, I don't see how that's going to change hearts and minds.
Mm. What do you mean? What do you mean when you say caving into the issue?
Well, I mean, in other words, why are we even talking about it? I mean, why do I have to change my position or change the way I vote and the way I believe
Mike,
in order to try to get somebody else?
Mike, you haven't told me what your position is yet, so I don't. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I don't know what your position. Do you believe? You don't believe that a woman? Do you believe that there's any place for abortion?
I believe that God's author of life. I think God's author of life, and I don't believe we have a right to take the life.
Okay. I have all the respect in the world. I mean, no matter what.
Okay. All right.
I mean, no. I'm asking you. No matter what.
No matter what.
So you don't believe in the death penalty? You don't believe in the death penalty?
I don't believe in the death penalty.
I
certainly believe in that. Yes, I believe in the death penalty.
God is the author of life. Why do we have the ability to take it?
Well, because I'm sorry you've asked that. I have to say what I believe from the Scripture, from the Bible. I have to say that's my faith. There's a difference between innocent life and guilty life. And in Romans chapter 13, the Bible teaches that civil authority is set up to punish the evildoer, and in so doing, they bear not the sword in vain.
Okay.
God authorizes the punishment of criminals, but not innocent babies.
Okay, so your position is that that there should be a federal law preventing the states from making their own decisions about the issue, or are you comfortable with Dobbs?
I'm just saying this. Hey, I'm not going with laws and all that. Look, I'll vote for any law that bans abortion. I understand there are certain things with life of the mother, such as that. I do. But like we've always said, that's always been the liberal position. They always go back to the very little minority on the issue. But
But Mike, I'm not asking about the liberal position. I was just asking about yours, and I'm not challenging yours. I was just curious what it was.
Well, yeah, and what I'm saying is this. It seems like with conservatives, we're always having to give and back down to ultimately what turns out to be the liberal position.
Winning strategy. But Mike, this is where I would push back. Strategizing to win elections is not compromising your position. It's winning elections.
You can win it, but what do you get?
I know what you get if you don't win. You get liberalism. You get socialism.
You know what I told somebody one time? I said that it's like kicking a field goal in football, but the goalpost always moves. If you're always trying to hit down the center, but the goalpost is moving left, the center's not the same as it was.
My goalpost hasn't moved in 25 years, Mike. I got to run. I'm 4 minutes late. I don't mean to cut you off. You were on for 9 minutes. Don't say that I cut you off. I didn't. I got your position well established. I appreciate your position, and your position on the issue and mine aren't very divergent. I'm just trying to win elections in 2024. It is 224 on Super Talk.
I don't remember the final count, but I know when I went to bed, Reagan had 598 electoral votes. Mondale had 3. You think about it, that's only 3 more than I had. I didn't even run.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to suggest to you in 2024, if it's not already been a part of your weekly activity, making the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast a part of your routine. Mill Creek View is pretty darn good. Steve Abramowitz does a great job at what he does. Mill Creek View has been presenting a lively and robust discussion right here in the state of Tennessee for some time now, over the last year, and they're back at it in 2024. They are a conservative advocacy podcast, always a positive change in our community at the center of what they do. They love truth, They believe in truth, and they believe in presenting the truth to the general public right here in the state of Tennessee and throughout the Southeast. So Mill Creek View is available for you on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, all your favorite podcast apps. You can also find them on YouTube as well, or the Rumble video actually is where they are located, an alternative to YouTube that doesn't censor them. Steve Abramowitz is the CEO and editor-in-chief of Mill Creek View. You can also find him at mcview.us for all of your Mill Creek View needs. mcview.us. Go by there and tell them Matt Murphy sent you. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 228. My point, and I hope it's not lost, because anytime you begin a discussion that involves abortion, sometimes you get into the weeds and you lose the view from 50,000 feet. My point is that there are people that believe differently than you do with regard to the sanctity of life as it applies to conception, creation, and birth, and everything that comes between conception and birth. There are divergent views. We also, and I know this is going to tick a bunch of people off, and that's fine. I just have to speak to you in a truthful and what I hope to be entertaining way. We live in a country that believes in your right to worship our Creator, but they also believe in your right to not believe in a Creator. And they did not believe that a government that is devised by man with rights granted by our Creator should involve itself in picking religions of the state. You can call this a failure in our representative republic if you want. But it is truth that not everyone has the same religious viewpoint on the issue of abortion that I do or that you do. And 3425, it's exactly what I'm talking about, what you just said. So kill a few babies so you can win elections. That attitude is exactly what loses you elections. Not recognizing that there is a significant portion of America that feels mildly, if not significantly different than you on this issue. And mine is an issue of packaging your position and argument in a positive and thoughtful way, as opposed to a negative way. That's all. And if I can't convince enough conservatives of what I'm trying to appeal to with regard to winning and furthering the cause of life in doing so, then I don't know what I'm doing. 231, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's talk about Dr. Poss and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. It's an alternative to people who have sleep apnea, mild to moderate sleep apnea, but cannot wear a CPAP or don't wear a CPAP or simply find the CPAP on the floor in the morning. You can eliminate or dramatically reduce snoring. As mentioned in a recent study, the bed partner of someone who snores loses an average of 62 minutes of sleep a night. That's over an hour. Now you have two tired people on your hand and probably two grumpy people. 25% of adults have sleep apnea. Most are unaware of it. Major health issues can result from not wearing or not treating, I should say, sleep apnea. And many people who have a CPAP don't wear it. You can get high blood pressure, acid reflux, memory fog, diabetes, weight gain, and so much more. There are two convenient offices located in Brentwood and Murfreesboro. And Dr. Stephen Poss wants to see you. They're the only office that's in network with all the major insurance companies like BCBS, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, and TRICARE for the military. Dr. Stephen Poss and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Friends, you need to do this in 2024. Go see Dr. Poss today. Go to the Dr. Poss Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. We have subdivided our conversation into one about abortion and the other about 2024 and where we go from here. A lot of good things to happen in 2024. I expect great things from 2024. I believe that 2024 will be a good year from a political perspective. I used one issue as an example of how the Republicans can spit the bit. If they don't have to move off of their position on the issue. But here's the thing. And while we're talking about it, let's go ahead and talk about it. For me, this is a matter for the states to take up. Would I hope that each state would take up similar legislation as to the state of Tennessee? Do I believe in 2024 there are far too many options available to individuals before they would ever get to the issue of abortion? Do I believe that there are way too many ways to prevent pregnancy prior to having a pregnancy, that abortion should not be an option on the table? Of course I do. Do I believe that this should be a federal law? No, I don't. I don't think that's where the Constitution is on this. And the Supreme Court agrees with me, by the way, which is why Dobbs happened, which is why Roe v. Wade was such a wrongly decided Supreme Court case. Why it was thrown, thank you to Dobbs, to the trash heap of American judicial history. But the same folks that I stood alongside arguing that this was a matter for these states seem to have lost that argument now that the states are allowed to decide the matter, because some of the states are deciding along the same lines that they've always decided, and they allow for what I would consider to be murder. My point is this, that if you don't respect someone's position that there should be exceptions in cases of rape or incest, I don't expect you to change your mind that that's still murder. And that's the way, frankly, if you're being consistent, you feel about it, right? The fact that a birth occurred as a result of, well, I mean, it's awful to contemplate, and it's rare, but it happens. But if you are not at least emotionally invested in the position of the other person that's arguing that on the other side, you're going to lose a lot of elections. If you do not foment a way to impressively and positively convince others that there are other options for them. It's just an example. But I think, based on the last 20 minutes, it's the obvious example of how packaging these things in a positive way is more difficult than one would originally think, and why I think we didn't do as well in 2022 as we could, and why some people would just as soon lose elections so that they can claim the moral high ground. Patrick is next up. Patrick, thank you for your call. How are you?
I'm well. I think you could have used more examples in your original discussion with the previous caller. I think he may have agreed with you. But, just saying love and words like that without examples, it's kind of hard to wrap one's mind around the point you're trying to get across. Like what would be an example? You kind of used one in your lead up to my call. But what would be an example of what you're talking about?
A woman who believes, many conservatives who believe life begins at conception do not believe in the morning after pill. There are many others who would call themselves conservatives, particularly females, who believe that the morning after pill is a perfectly acceptable preventative. I would think that a discussion about the morning after pill is one that should be constructive as opposed to destructive in the effort to convince many that it is not necessarily needed in the modern era, considering so many other ways that one could prevent pregnancy. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about examples?
I guess what I'm asking is, in a political discourse, how do you express?
Okay, so hold on. Let me do it again then. Okay, let me do it again. All right, so you asked for an example. I feel like I just gave you one, and it's not good enough for you. So let me try it again.
Okay.
There are many conservatives that would like to ban the morning after pill. Do you know what the morning after pill is?
To be sure.
Yeah, RU46. So there are many conservatives that want to ban it because they believe that it's an abortifacient, that it is akin to an abortion. I would argue that it is not because the egg and the cell have not gotten to the womb and attached to the womb at the time. But without getting into the medical dynamic for this example, you asked for an example, and I'll just give you one. So if they're facing a population of women and they want to ban the morning after pill, and these females are saying, no, we think that's a step too far on the issue of my rights as a woman to make medical decisions of my choosing, that's one of those points that I think messaging what you're trying to accomplish is so important, lest you lose a portion of the female vote that you could easily get.
Surely you recognize that the morning after pill is widely regarded as an abortion.
So, Patrick, what I'm doing is what you asked. You asked for an example, and I gave you one. What am I failing to do for you right now?
I think that you came at the guy, the previous caller. He was trying. He's obviously a well-meaning, sincere person. I'm not now hearing your position. I'm not sure he would get on board with you after all. But I think it would have helped, connecting with the guy, to use a few more examples. And you have. I'll grant you that. I would have to think very carefully about what you're saying about RU-486.
Well, I mean, there are some people that would argue. I mean, if we want to use examples that are extreme so that they're easily understood, and I understand that it's an extreme position in 2024 to take, but it is a position held by many conservatives, particularly Catholic conservatives, that using or utilizing any sort of protection or birth control whatsoever is in and of itself a contraception that goes against their biblical teaching.
Yeah, I don't carry a case for that, but I think.
Well, I mean, I'm not. Patrick, understand about me. I'm not necessarily making a case for the morning after pill. You asked me for an example of what I'm talking about, how you could lose voters, and I'm just trying to give it to you.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I believe that. I'm saying that this is an example of what I'm talking about.
I think, I understand your position, but I think you also need to understand that we are hearing a lot of Republicans now. They have buyer's remorse on overthrowing Roe v. Wade, and they're so concerned that the abortion issue is going to be used against them, that now they're falling all over themselves to say that they're not really. It seems like they're saying they're not really as pro-life as what they did. They were more anti-Roe than they were pro-life, and that makes people in the rank and file really mad, and it turns people against Republican candidates who they thought were on their side. Now it turns out, not so much. So that's something. I think that's something that Republicans need to factor in.
Well, let me interrupt just real quick. I want your reaction to this, Patrick, because I believe you also. It is on us, each of us, to make sure that we fully understand the position of these individual candidates. My position has always been that faith supersedes force, and that God will handle much of this in His time rather than on our time, meaning that my position was always that it's not a matter of the federal government to decide. It's a matter for state governments to decide. So that was largely the argument amongst many Republicans that I spoke with, that they wanted to revert it back to the states because they did not see it as a federal constitutional issue that the federal government or the Constitution of the United States speaks to. That's one thing. It is another thing to say that abortion should be illegal because abortion is and always will be murder, and therefore a federal law should be instituted. I heard a lot of the latter and a lot of the former and not the latter before Dobbs happened, and now I'm hearing a lot of the latter and not the former.
I will concede that we'll have to get used to the fact that abortion will be more prevalent, say, in Massachusetts than Mississippi. And going back to a previous point you made, that will be the task of the pro-life movement in the future, to change hearts and minds, to make an argument. And I would argue that you can make an argument against abortion without referencing religion. I think we must make that argument, or due to the
Patrick, you're talking
about
language. That's the argument that I've always made. You cannot utilize individual religious faith in order to make an argument that the federal government should do one thing or another. What you have to argue is that life is precious, regardless if that life has been birthed or not. So you have to establish when life begins from a legal perspective, utilize that established concept in order to further the thought that babies within the womb remain precious and they have rights just as those of us who have been born have. That's the argument that you make, is that that our God-given rights as certified by the Constitution of the United States, and thank you for the call, that they extend beyond those who have been born to the unborn. And then that gets into the target of the debate is that when does life begin? And that inherently is a religious discussion, or innately is a religious discussion for people like me and probably like you, Patrick, and maybe not for others. So I'll set that on the side burner for a moment. The point was that there are a lot of these issues that Republicans need to navigate in order to avoid distractions by the Democrats. My entire point in bringing this up was to suggest that everything they can do to try to highlight what they think are winning strategies that don't have anything to do with Joe Biden, they're going to do. They want to avoid any and all discussion about the economy, any and all discussion about foreign policy, any and all discussion about the southern border, any and all discussion about energy, any and all discussion about these things that they have broken, and they believe they have a winning strategy because they know 40% of America agrees with them on the abortion issue, sadly, but it's true. And they believe they can swing another 12 to 15% on their side on the issue. My suggestion to conservatives and Republicans alike is to be cautious on the issue, because not everybody feels the same way as you, and those people get to vote too, that you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. I'm not asking anyone to subjugate their principles and their conscience for that purpose. Just be aware that it's going to be used against. Just watch. And later on this year, you'll say, hey, I guess Murphy was right on that front. Speaking of being right, I was so right with regard to what we need to do concerning the, quote, pro-Palestinian protests that are going on around the United States of America. The anti-Israeli or pro-Palestinian, or I would suggest pro-Hamas protest continue, caused a major travel headache on New Year's Day yesterday as these anti-Israel, pro-Hamas ralliers descended on John F. Kennedy International Airport by subway, by car. They created a traffic jam nightmare on one of the busiest travel days of the year. And here's what I'll say on this matter. I don't have a lot of time to say it, but I want to get this out before we speak to Brian Wilson and make way for the drive. Folks, we better get a handle. Our major American cities better get a handle on these protests. And they owe it. Leadership in major American cities, really around the country, but particularly in cities like Nashville, like Charlotte, like Atlanta, like New York and Philadelphia and Michigan, or Detroit, I should say. Not Michigan's a state, not a city. It is high time that we made clear what the difference between protest and illegal protest and legal protest truly is, and what is permissible and what is not permissible. It is not permissible to shut down commerce. It is not permissible to disrupt the basic rights and liberties of other individuals trying to live a life of their choosing and get to a travel location of their choosing. We need to explain to these people that they will be arrested, prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They will be thrown in jail. We will not tolerate this. If you continue to tolerate what's going on in New York and on the Belt Parkway and in Philadelphia and in some other locations, it will grow, it will continue, and it will get violent. They are not peaceful protesters who simply want to stop colonization. These are pro-Hamas Palestinian people. And they need to be made aware, clearly made aware of the consequences of their actions of disrupting the lives of other people in America. Yes, you have a right to protest. No, those rights are not unilateral to disrupt my life And we need to treat these individuals with a firm hand and make it clear that they're going to be treated with a firm hand and have a zero-tolerance policy. Otherwise, you're going to see more of this garbage in 2024. It is 2:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you missed our conversation with Congressman Tim Burchett, it will be up and running on the podcast page, 997WTN.com. That's 997WTN.com. I have long argued that there should not be a federal minimum wage because the states will handle this matter themselves. Coming up tomorrow on the show, I will re-up that argument because 22 separate states have upped their minimum wage. And I don't know of anybody that makes $7.25 an hour. That's the federal minimum wage right now. Many individuals just getting into the workforce are making $12, $13, $14 an hour. And if you want a good worker, you pay that if you are a company that values that good workforce. That said, we'll take that up on tomorrow's show. 2:55. Right now, we turn our attention to the man. He's been gone for a minute, and I am so excited. You know what? I'm not excited to find out how Brian Wilson celebrated his New Year's. Now, Solo, I want to know how she celebrated.
Well, this dog has turned into a chunk. I'll tell you, she came out, weighing a few ounces. She's now 4 pounds.
Oh, wow!
She is fully mobile and scrambling, and just running all over the place and doing the things that little puppies do, like getting into everything. So you just can't take your eyes off of her. She's doing great. By the way, let me say thank you for filling in while I took a week off. I wanted to take a week off between Christmas and New Year's because I think I'm going to put my head down and my nose to the grindstone because we're in an exciting time, politically. As we head toward the caucuses and the different primaries, and we decide who our nominees are going to be, and it's going to be an unpredictable. I think election season like we've never seen before. So many possibilities, so many twists and turns could be on the horizon. I just wanted to be rested and ready. And so I really appreciate you letting me have a few days off.
It was absolutely my pleasure. You know how much fun I have being on between 3 and 7 on the drive in your absence, and it was a lot of fun. But I'm curious. I am unnaturally hopeful about 2024 and the politics of 2024. And I'm normally the pessimist in the group, and I think anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But I'm hopeful. I just see a lot of – I think out of all of the negative that we have experienced during the Biden administration and under his lack of leadership, if you will, I see the American people, the America that isn't normally as engaged this time of year, engaged already. I'm curious if you feel the same way or
well, I'd like to think so. Everything that I read really reads as if it's going to be a good year for conservatives. I think it is going to be a good year. But there are so many facets out there. We don't know. Like, for example, is there going to be a valid middle third-party candidate? And that changes the numbers. Is Joe Biden really going to be the nominee? I keep thinking that he won't be. I notice Donald Trump doesn't think he will be either. So the question is then who is that, and then how does that scramble the numbers? Mm-hmm. As it looks today, it's Trump versus Biden, and Trump is looking really good. But, there are these unknown factors out there, and I guarantee you the way things look today are not the way they will look in a few months.
In the other breaking news of the day, Brian, I'm certain that you have some thoughts, and perhaps we'll share them during the drive about the resignation of the soon-to-be former president of Harvard University, yes?
Yes, I do. I do have that as a surprise. I do have that down on my rundown of things about in the 4 o'clock hour. So we'll get into all that. Also, the 2024 news, there's a poll out that shows that Joe Biden is losing Black and Hispanic voters, two very reliable voting bases that have always traditionally voted Democrat, into an alarming, if you're a Democrat, an alarming degree, good for Republicans, bad for Democrats. But we're going to be talking about that a little bit. And, of course, it's the first of the year. I'm going to start off in a few moments talking about the new Tennessee laws, including one, if you're in your car right now and you don't know about this law, you need to pay attention coming up here in just a few minutes when we start the drive.
Cannot wait to get the action going in 2024. Brian Wilson and the drive set to begin in just mere moments, and he'll have all of the news that you need to know about this afternoon to include. And I was just noticing that there's video of that. Have you seen this video on TMZ of this actor in L.A.? I think this was a former.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Just getting assaulted on city streets.
Just getting the crap beat out of him by people wearing, helmets.
Yeah.
Very motorcycle helmets. Very weird, yeah.
That's very odd. So Brian Wilson's got it all for you as he returns for 2024, and the drive is set to begin in mere seconds. Until next time, folks, have a wonderful afternoon. Enjoy the drive as I will, and we'll talk to you tomorrow at high noon, 12 o'clock. Until then, great afternoon. So long.